Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, in the name of Allah, the merciful, the especially merciful. I greet you with the warmest Islamic greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May the peace and blessings of God be upon you all. Now, on this channel, the London Dawah Movement, our beloved brother Imran Hussein discussed the argument from nature. You can see the respective videos here and here. Now, there has been a contention to this argument, but before I talk about the contention to this argument, let's just summarize the argument. The summary is as follows. We have an innate nature to believe in God. It's based on psychology, it's natural. It's based on sociology, it's natural. It's based on anthropological studies, it's natural to believe in God. And the belief in God is what you call an axiom. It's a self-evident truth that doesn't require any inductive or deductive arguments. For example, if you took anyone on a desert island, they'll be able to conclude that God is actually a reality. There's supernatural causal agency. And this is also called a basic belief or a properly basic belief. And some basic beliefs include that the real world is the real world, that this table is actually real. But we have no real evidence to prove that. It's an axiom, it's a basic belief. Because maybe my brain is on Mars and there's an alien with putting probes in my brain, making me think and feel what I'm feeling now and thinking now. So from this perspective, God's existence is just like a properly basic belief. Now someone may argue, well, what about the spaghetti monster or the great pumpkin? Maybe that's a properly basic belief. But that's absurd. Yes, I agree. But properly basic beliefs are basic because they don't require information transfer. If you put someone on a desert island, they'll know the real world is real, and they'll know that the island had to be created by something outside of the island, or the whole universe had to be created by something outside of the universe. In other words, a god or supernatural agency. But the knowledge of a spaghetti monster or a great pumpkin requires information transfer. Someone has to give you that information. So that's not very good, strong contention. But the main contention I want to talk to you today is probably the only strong contention against this argument, and you'll find out that it's quite weak, which is, what about the earth being flat? Or the sun going around the earth? These were properly basic beliefs, but yet we know they're not true now. Now this is true. With properly basic beliefs, you may have future evidence that denies your properly basic belief, and then you'd have to change it. Agreed. But when it comes to God's existence, do we have any evidence today that denies God's existence from an empirical or scientific perspective? No. So the idea is that you always stick with your properly basic belief until the evidence contradicts it. But the irony is, there will be no scientific or empirical evidence that could ever contradict the idea of God. Ever. I'm going to repeat that. There is no physical evidence that can ever deny strongly God's existence. The only thing physical, empirical, and scientific evidence can do is support the idea of God's existence, like we have for the fine-tuning of the constants and the natural laws of the universe to permit our existence. Therefore, there must be a fine-tuner or a designer. It can keep silent, and that's about it. It can't strongly deny God's existence because God by definition is outside of the universe, is metaphysical. You can't get God and put him in a test tube. So no amount of empirical evidence will show that God does not exist. Maybe it can show that the universe works on its own. Maybe it can show that the universe has established laws. Maybe the universe could show these things, the how, but it could never ever deny God's existence because the method of study called science focuses on the physical world. God, by definition, is not part of the physical world. So how can a method that focuses on something like the physical world now somehow focus on something that it's not supposed to focus on? So this is why, although it's a valid contention that some properly basic beliefs can be changed due to our future scientific findings, but when it comes to God's existence, there will be no scientific finding that can ever deny his existence. Maybe it can tell us that we were wrong in the way we thought the world works, but how can it deny a being that's outside of the universe? Because science still has an assumption of causality. Science still has there's still the same kind of basic assumptions that we use to infer God's existence. And also, science as a method of study cannot really deny God's existence, because what physical evidence is there to deny his existence? You can't, because God itself is outside of the physical world. All it can do is strongly suggest he exists, or just keep silent on the topic. So therefore that contention, I think, is dealt with. Let me just summarize again. The contention was, okay, probably basic beliefs, it makes sense, but what about the earth being flat? Or the sun going around the earth? That was a properly basic belief, but we've changed our beliefs because of the evidence. Agreed. But it doesn't follow that there may be a potential change of your properly basic belief, that you change your belief now. You only change your properly basic beliefs when you've seen the evidence. And what physical evidence is there to actually deny God's existence? None. And also, will there ever be physical evidence or empirical evidence to deny his existence? No, because outside of the scope of the scientific method. It's outside of the scope. If we read the works of Alex Rosenberg, Elliot Sober and others, philosophers of science, we see that science has a limited scope. It deals with the physical world. God is not part of the physical world, so they can't really directly address it, which means he can never directly say God does not exist. They can suggest that we don't have empirical evidence. They can suggest, for instance, that there is some evidence that leads to his existence, but they can't directly deny his existence using the empirical scientific paradigm, because of the nature of what this method of study and this worldview of knowledge is. It just focuses on the physical world. So, I think that contention is addressed. May God bless you.